Salutations, I'm your host, Khuma'zi Tayuun, aka Demented Kitsune, aka Crazed Kitsune, aka whatever. And welcome to my 5th instructional video for jobs in Final Fantasy XIV. Today, we are going to be covering Paladin. This is my second favorite tanking class in the game. Of course, there are only two that I actually like playing, but whatever. This Paladin is a highly defensive and supportive tank designed to reduce as much damage they're taking as they possibly can, as well as assisting in preventing damage to the party or simply undoing it. As such, Paladins can be very useful in a party if the Paladin knows what they're doing. And now, let's take a look at stats. Just like with Dark Knight, Vitality is the primary stat of, well, all tanks, so you're going to be putting everything you can into Vitality on Paladin, since it increases the damage you do and the health you have, and these other stats aren't really going to be much help at all. Paladins are another tank who makes relatively large use of their MP, but unlike Dark Knights, running out of MP isn't going to ruin anything because you don't have a continuous draining damage stance. You will of course want Vitality accessories, and as a Paladin, you are the only job in existence that specifically uses an offhand. The other jobs, most of them are using only a main weapon. Conjurer / White Mage and Thaumaturge / Black Mage can use shields, but they're generally better off using their two-handed weapon anyway. A Paladin should always have a shield and their sword. You should never have this slot empty. That is extremely important. Because Paladins block attacks, which interacts with a couple of their skills, and is essential for using one of them. With the stats and accessories covered, let's move on to actions, traits, and additional skills. Paladin is not a pure job. It begins as Gladiator, and when you get Gladiator to level 30 and Conjurer to level 15, you can then undertake the quest to become a Paladin and acquire your first Paladin skill. Their tertiary class is Marauder. Basically every tank is going to have Marauder involved with them. And every tank is going to have Gladiator involved with them. If I were to do a Warrior video, I would be going over cross classes you get from Gladiator that go on Warrior, as well as their tertiary class. But I don't like Warrior enough to level to maximum level, so I'm not making a video for them at this time. I might change my mind at some point, who knows? I am a little crazy. Anyway, let's get into the actions. At level 1, Gladiator starts with Fast Blade, a potency 150 60 TP global cooldown weapon skill. It's the start of all of their combos. In Dark Knight, I had explained melee classes have combos, skills that chain together. This holds true for Paladin and Gladiator if you aren't a Paladin yet. At level 2, you acquire Rampart, a 90-second cooldown that for 20 seconds reduces the damage you take. It starts at 10%, and there is a trait which we'll get into... What am I doing? I start on traits. Ignore me, I'm stupid. At level 8, Gladiator gets the Enhanced Vitality trait, which gives them 2 Vitality. More damage, more health. Handy. At level 14, they get Enhanced Rampart, which makes Rampart a 20% damage reduction instead of 10%, which I was already covering because I was doing things in the wrong order. Whoops. At level 16, they get Enhanced Vitality too. 4 Vitality, more damage, more health, more usefulness. At level 20, they gain Enhanced Flash, which applies a 12-second blind to everything that it hits. This is useful, just because it makes it harder for enemies to hit you. But it doesn't specifically do anything other than that. At level 24, you get Enhanced Vitality 3, which is 6 vitality, so yet more damage, yet more health, yet more yay. At level 28, you get Enhanced Fight or Flight, which extends the duration of fight or flight to 30 seconds. I cannot for the life of me remember how long it normally lasts. Probably something like 15? Maybe more? At 32, you get Enhanced Convalescence. That's right, the cross-class that I have in the first slot on Dark Knight gets better for Paladins. Instead of a 20% HP recovery increase, it's 30. So, Paladins get even more survivability. At level 36, you get Enhanced Shield Bash, which extends the stun effect of Shield Bash to 6 seconds. I believe it starts at 4. At level 40, you get Enhanced Rage of Halone, which increases the strength reduction inflicted by Rage of Halone to 10%. I believe it's 5% normally. At level 44, you receive Enhanced Awareness, which increases its duration to 25 seconds. I think it was like 15 before. And at level 48, you get Enhanced Sentinel, which increases the damage reduction of Sentinel to 40%. It was 30%. Rampart and Sentinel are basically Shadow Skin and Shadow Wall on Dark Knight, except Paladins get a stronger one in place of what Shadow Wall is. Shadow Wall is always 30%. Enhanced Sentinel means that level 48 and above Paladins have a 40% damage reduction. So that's very nice. As I mentioned, Paladins are very defensy. Since I've already covered these two skills because I did things in the wrong order, let's just move on and pretend I'm not an idiot. At level 4, Paladin gets Savage Blade, a 60 TP global cooldown weapon skill. Potency 100 normally, combo potency of 200 if you follow Fast Blade with this. And it has increased enmity. This is the first piece to your hate combo. And it's a very important skill, since it helps you hold aggro. And holding aggro is important. At level 6, you get Fight or Flight, a 90-second cooldown that for its duration gives you a 30% increase to all the physical damage you deal. And all of your damage is physical, so that's nice. It allows you to do more damage and hold hate more easily, as well as get the enemies dead faster. There is little to no reason to not use both of these together, as you'll be taking less damage and dealing more damage, so the fight is just generally easier. One thing I didn't mention in the Dark Knight video, try not to pop most general cooldowns before you are in combat, as you will not receive their full benefits. A damage-reducing cooldown that has already lost 5 seconds of its duration before you're even being attacked is 5 seconds of wasted damage reduction. Fight or Flight is one that you can pop immediately before you start attacking things, as it will allow you to do more damage with your ranged pull on your starting target, and so forth. This is one that you can pop right before you actually start fighting things. But defensive cooldowns should be popped while they're actually needed and not before. At level 8, Paladin acquires Flash. At level 60, this costs 707 MP. It's global cooldown. It's their AoE Hate Grabber skill. It's got a 5 yawn radius, and it increases the enmity of all enemies within its radius. They don't take any damage, and they can be asleep when you use this on them. They won't wake up, because it does no damage. So there are times where this is surprisingly more useful than the Warrior or Dark Knight area hate grabs, but they're kind of few and far between. At level 10, we get Convalescence, a 120-second cooldown that increases the HP you recover via healing magic. When you first acquire it, it's 20%, but with the trait that enhances it, it goes up to 30%, and it lasts for 20 seconds. So very nice. At level 12, you acquire Riot Blade. 60 TP global cooldown weapon skill. Potency 100 normally. Combo action Fast Blade. Its combo potency is 230, and it restores MP when you are comboing with it. This is useful as Paladins use their MP through flash, primarily, in order to maintain hate on the enemies all around them. Sorry about that. Still suffering throat issues. Really wish they'd go away. At level 15, you have a class quest for Gladiator, which will provide you with Shield Lob, a 120 TP 15 Yalm range global cooldown skill. It has a potency 120 and increased enmity. This is a Paladin's ranged pull. You will throw this on the enemy you want to kill first, if possible. Sometimes they'll be too far away and you just have to throw it on something else just to grab the enemies and then move to your primary target and hope the DPS follow your marks if you're marking, which I do. At level 18, Paladin acquires Shield Bash, a 120 TP global cooldown weapon skill, potency 110 attack, and a stun effect of, I think, a default of 4 seconds, but with the enhancing trait 6 seconds, 4 seconds in PvP. Yes, unlike Dark Knight, whose stun is an off-global 30-second cooldown, this can just be used on global cooldown, which can allow you to multi-stun fairly easily. It does use a fair chunk of TP, so don't go using this for damage. It's honestly nowhere near worth using for damage. But you can use it to stun enemies more often. This means in situations where stunning needs to happen a bunch, Paladins can be useful. At level 22, you acquire Provoke, a 40-second cooldown that has 10 more yalms of range than your ranged pull, but should not be used to pull because it doesn't actually produce any enmity at all. It just puts you at the top of the hate list of whatever enemy you use it on. And literally anything that's done to it after that will generate more hate than you have. This is a hate reclaim, or it's used for tank swapping in 8-man fights where tank swapping is a thing. You will use Provoke and immediately follow it with something that has enmity generation, if possible. Typically, you'll see people using Provoke and then their ranged pull in order to solidify themselves at the top of the hate list and then proceed to do a hate combo or two just to get themselves nice and solidly in front of everyone, which is not a bad idea. At level 26, Paladin gets Rage of Halone, a 60 TP global cooldown weapon skill, potency 100 normally. It has increased enmity. Its combo action is Savage Blade, and its combo potency is 260, with a combo bonus where it reduces the target's strength by 5% when you first receive Rage of Halone, but with the enhancing trait 10%, which lasts for 20 seconds. If you're like me, then your primary target is pretty much always going to have this strength down on them because you're going to be using your hate combo more than once every 20 seconds. But this is the end for your hate combo, and it is very useful. And it's also very nice that you get it at level 26. One annoying thing I know about Marauder and Warrior is their final hate combo skill is acquired from their final class quest at level 30. Doesn't that suck? And at level 30, the final class quest for Gladiator will give you Shield Swipe. This is a 15-second cooldown, 150 potency attack that can only be used after you have blocked an attack. This also applies a 6-second pacification to the enemy so they can't use weapon skills, and it has increased enmity, making it even easier for you to hold aggro because every time you block, you're just making even more hate. It says it's an off-global, you can use it in the middle of a combo and it's fine. At level 34, Paladin acquires Awareness, a 120-second cooldown that nullifies the chance of taking critical damage. Enemies just can't critical hit you for the next 15 seconds when you get Awareness, 25 seconds if you have its enhancing trait. This can be useful, but it's not the most important thing in the world, so you're probably not going to cross-class it unless you're up against an enemy with a tank buster that will nigh kill you if it doesn't critical hit, and you really don't want the chance of it critting you, because bosses can critical hit, and they can be scary. At level 38, you acquire Sentinel, a 180-second cooldown that when you first receive it, reduces the damage you take by 30% for 10 seconds, but with the enhanced Sentinel trait that you acquire 10 levels later, it goes up to 40%. This is your big I don't wanna be hurt button. Or you're just... all of your other defensive cooldowns are still on cooldown and there aren't any major tank busters to worry about and you just want to continue taking less damage. At level 42... sorry again. You acquire Tempered Will, a 180-second cooldown that will immediately cure any bind or heavy effects you have on you, while also preventing any knockback or draw-in effects for 10 seconds. There are times when you will be fighting enemies that will try to do things like fling you off of the arena periodically. This is bad. Tempered Will says no. So you don't use this in most situations. It's a situational cooldown, but it's helpful. At level 46, Paladin acquires Bulwark, a 180-second cooldown that increases their block rate by 60% for the next 15 seconds. Remember Shield Swipe and how you can only use it if you've blocked an attack? Well, Bulwark helps with that. Also, blocking attacks just makes them do less damage to you, so the more you block, the less you're hurting. Nice. And at level 50, Gladiator acquires their final class skill. A 5 Yalm radius 25-second recast skill called Circle of Score. It delivers a potency 100 attack to all enemies around you, has increased enmity, and applies a potency 30 damage over time that lasts for 15 seconds. There is literally no reason to not use this basically every time it's off cooldown, especially in group pulls, unless you're in a fight where you know a bunch of adds are about to spawn and you really want to secure some hate on them to keep them off your healer. Then you might save this for them. Otherwise, use this whenever you can. It's more damage and more hate, which makes your job easier in every conceivable way. And now, on to the job skills, which you start getting at level 30 upon unlocking Paladin. The first skill you receive is Sword Oath. It costs 884 MP at level 60. It is a global cooldown skill, so when you use it, you won't be able to use any of your weapon skills until your global cooldown finishes. This is one of Paladin's 2 stances. Unlike Dark Knight, they do not have the ability to have a damage up as well as their tanking stance. They have to choose. Paladins will, when they're in Sword Oath, deal an additional damage with potency 75 after every auto attack, just increasing their auto attack damage, increasing their total damage overall. It cannot be used with Shield Oath, because Shield Oath is your other stance that you get later. Yeah, Paladins don't get their tanking stance until later. The other 2 tanks have their tanking stance at level 30. Kind of annoying, but I've generally never had any issues with aggro because the most important thing about tanking is know your hate skills. Which ones have enmity on them? Know them, use them. Make sure the enemy hates you. At level 35, Paladin acquires Cover, a 120-second cooldown that has a 10 Yalm range. It isn't used on themselves. Instead, Paladin uses this skill on a party member, which allows them to take all of the physical damage they would suffer for the next 12 seconds as long as you remain within 10 yalms of them. So that's useful, because there are times when there's just going to be a bunch of things that hate your healer, and grabbing them off your healer might take just long enough for them to bite your healer in the face. So throw cover on the healer. That way, the enemies are biting the healer in the face, but you're the one taking the damage. Which is much better, because that means that the healer isn't getting interrupted in the middle of heals and possibly dying. At level 40, you finally acquire your tank stance, Shield Oath. It has the same cost as Sword Oath, it's on global cooldown. It reduces the damage you take by 20%, lowers the damage you deal by 15%, increases the enmity you produce, and increases your chance to hit by 5%. I believe all tank stances reduce the damage you take by 20%, increase your chance to hit by 5%, but their damage penalties are different. Paladin has the lowest static damage penalty of 15%, Dark Knight has 20%, but they can bring that down to 5 using Dark Side, and Warriors have 25%. They can temporarily nullify this with some of their skills. Very sorry about that. If you are tanking as Paladin, you should be spending a good chunk of your time in Shield Oath just to make sure you have hate. Optimal Paladins will stance. They will move between Shield and Sword Oath during a fight in order to increase their damage they're dealing when their hate is nice and secure, and go into Shield Oath when Tank Buster attacks are incoming to reduce the damage they're going to take. It is fairly advanced. It's something I don't do. I just stay in Shield Oath constantly and just hold my hate. Even if I'm doing less damage, I'm at least holding hate and not dying. So, useful. At level 45, Paladins acquire Spirits Within, a 30-second recast ability that delivers a potency 300 attack, but its potency lowers as your health lowers. It's most useful if you're at full health, but it can be useful at other times because it has a 1-second silence effect. There are fights where you might need to silence something because it's really bad and you don't want it to happen. In most of these fights it'll happen more than once every 30 seconds, so hopefully you've got somebody else who has a silence who can trade off with you for each sequence. But otherwise, it is a useful little bit of extra damage, even if it's being reduced because you have missing health. At level 50, you acquire Hallowed Ground, a 420-second cooldown. Yes, you heard me right. This thing takes 8 minutes to come off cooldown. Or no, 7 minutes to come off cooldown. But that's because after you activate it for 10 seconds, there's almost nothing anything can do to hurt you. The only attacks that generally can still hurt you are raid-wide kill attacks. That everyone's just going to be killed with raw damage because somebody screwed up a mechanic. Otherwise, you activate this, you're immortal for 10 seconds. Useful for terrifying emergency situations where you're about to die and the healer is struggling to keep you up, because for the next 10 seconds, they can heal you with impunity, and you can just continue doing your job. It's very useful. Just don't use it willy-nilly. Save it for when it's needed. Otherwise, you might not have it when you do. And that is the end of all skills up to level 50. Of course, everything in here is acquired through a job quest for anything that's not Heaven's Ward, because Heaven's Ward are pure jobs, and all of our skills are job skills, even the ones they gain through leveling up. Classes that advance into jobs have class actions, and then they have job actions. But on to the skills you gain in Heavensward. At level 52, you get Sheltron, a 30-second cooldown that guarantees you will block the next physical attack delivered to you within the next 10 seconds. And upon blocking, it restores a good chunk of your MP. So this is useful. It reduces the damage you take, can guarantee you a shield swipe, and gives you back MP. There is in no way... There is in no situation where Sheltron isn't helping you. At level 54, you get Goring Blade, a 50 TP global cooldown weapon skill. Potency 100 normally, its combo action is Riot Blade. You may have noticed how Dark Knight actually had combos they acquired even before level 50 that chained off of their MP combo, whereas Paladin's MP combo remained a 2-hit. Heavensward changed that. If you follow Riot Blade with this, it becomes a potency 240 attack. It will also then apply a damage over time of 50 potency for 24 seconds. Which is useful as you needed to get some MP back, and now the enemy is taking more damage. At level 56, you acquire Divine Veil, a 120-second cooldown that is very useful to your party. Upon receiving healing magic HP recovery, it will put a barrier around all party members within a 15-yalm radius. This ability will last for 30 seconds, as will the barrier. The barrier will prevent up to 10% of your maximum HP in damage to your party. That's right. You're basically giving them a copy of your stone skin for 30 seconds. As soon as you receive any healing magic, Divine Veil will end and apply its shield effect to anyone within 15 yalms of you. You don't get a shield. This is to protect your party. At level 58, Paladin acquires Clemency. It costs, at level 60, 2121 MP. Expensive. It's on global cooldown, has a 2-second cast time. It's a healing spell. Cure potency 1200. And if you use it on somebody who's not you, half of the HP you restore is also given to you. So it's useful for healing your party. It's also useful as a self-heal after a tank buster. And finally, at level 60, you get Royal Authority, a 60 TP global cooldown weapon skill, potency 100 normally, but it combos off of Savage Blade. Yes, you get an alternate combo off of your Hate combo, and this one is potency 350. You use this just to deliver a big heavy blow to the enemy. Now on to the additional skills. My first 3 additional skills all come from Marauder, and the last 2 come from Conjurer. First is Foresight, 120-second cooldown that gives you 20% more defense for 20 seconds. Useful. Next you have Mercy Stroke, 90-second cooldown, 200 potency execute skill. If it kills the enemy, then you gain 20% of your maximum health back. Sorry. The reason I have Foresight first is a defensive boost is more useful to a tank than the occasional ability to deal a big chunk of damage. But this is still more useful than Bloodbath to Paladins, because Paladins are just very good at reducing the damage they take and increasing how much they get healed. But Bloodbath is still useful, so I put it in my 3rd slot, since it's a 90-second cooldown that converts 25% of all physical damage I do into HP for the next 15 seconds. And then at level 40 and 50, these are fairly interchangeable entirely, honestly. I have Protect and Stone Skin from Conjurer because sometimes I get a healer who doesn't have one of these skills. Stone Skin is the less important of the two, which is why I have it at the end. But Protect, being a 10% magic and physical damage down to you and your party and just generally good, healers should have this, but some healers don't. And in some places, this can be almost suicidal with how much damage it can take off. And Stone Skin, because Stone Skin is nice and Stone Skin is useful. I like to help out the healer with Stone Skins or Protect if they're casting Stone Skin ability skills. Just because that way things go faster. And now that I've covered the traits and skills, on to the practical demonstrations. Let's zoom out for maximum viewing potential. As with Dark Knight, I recommend you mark your kill order just to remove any confusion with your DPS as to what needs to die when. And just like with Dark Knight, if you're going to be pulling enemies, first thing you do is your ranged pull. You run up to them, you get behind them. You start doing your hate combo, because you want to secure their aggro as soon as you can. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. There are multiple enemies in the pull, so you use Flash to grab the attention of the additional enemies and keep them off the healer. If you are a high enough level to have it, you can also use Circle of Scorn for some extra aggro on them, which will continue due to the damage over time you just gave. I can execute this thing. That's a nice chunk of damage, and if it had actually died, it would have given me back a bunch of health. Now, typically, this is what I do if I'm going to be pulling a group of enemies. Range pull. Rampart, Shield Swap, Ash the enemies, proceed to do hate combo on main target, except trade the final hit on to second target. Do hate combo again on main target, final hit on third target. After that, I'm probably running a bit low on MP, so I'll do this. If I'm a high enough level for it, then I can do this. I also like to do this fairly regularly on a boss, because, well, let's just put it this way. I'll hit a boss with my hate combo. I'll hit him with Circle of Scorn. Maybe I'll hit him with my Loyal Authority, because RAR. Hit him with Goring Blade for the damage of time. Hit him with this. I need to take less damage. I need to be healing some. I need to be healed more. I want to block some more. I don't want to be taking critical hits or get knocked back. These are all cooldown again, so let's use them. My party needs a shield. So, where's my Clemency? There's my Clemency. My party members would have all gotten a shield if I had any. I need to not take any damage. I need to take a lot less damage. Oh no! This enemy's aggro's been stolen off of me. I fixed it. Unfortunately, I can't use cover because I don't have any party members. I want to block them from coming out. And get back to an MP. Let's execute him again, just because it's kind of fun. tank that needs to stop. Done. I want to refresh my dodge. This looks like I'll pull down right now. Oh, so this. And Delta. Let's just go to town. That's the fun and glory of Paladin. You may not do the most damage in the world, but you're pretty darn good at holding a hate. Yes, please fall off, damage over time effects. I want you to go away so I can break aggro and end this means. But that's overall every skill that I can demonstrate that's not my stances, which is Sword Oath. Let me go show you what happens with Sword Oath. Hey, you. Notice that it has 2 sets of damage coming off of it. That's because of the extra potency being applied through Sword Oath's additional damage. Shield Oath. I take less damage, I generate more enmity, I do less damage, and I'm more likely to hit. I stay in Shield Oath basically at all times if I have it. If I don't have it, but I do have Sword Oath, I'll use Sword Oath, because it does allow me to do a little more damage, which makes holding hate a little bit easier. My healer is casting... I have a white mage. My healer is casting Stone Skin too, to put Stone Skin on the entire party. I'll put up Protect for them, because I want to be helpful. My healer has taken a blow during a fight, and they've lost their Stone Skin. I can just put it up for them, or I can put it on myself, if they don't have it. Just like with Dark Knight and all other tanks, your cooldowns are used largely at your discretion, or when they would be most beneficial. Paladin has a pair of cooldowns, as I mentioned, but you generally use together, Rampart and Fight or Flight, since they have the same cooldown, and there's no reason to not use Fight or Flight at any time in a fight, since it makes you do more damage, which kills the enemy faster, generates more hate for you, and is just overall useful. Divine Shield, if you're too far away from your party, there's no reason in activating it because they're not going to get anything out of it. And yes, there are fights where you're going to be on one side of a boss that's so big you're out of the 15 yalm radius of your party members. At which point it's useless. But if you are within 15 yalms of your party members, you can activate Divine Veil, and then you could use Clemency on yourself if you wanted, in order to produce the shield for them. Or let your healers heal you. Either way. If a party member is being targeted by a physical attack that you don't want them to take, you can throw cover on them, which is useful. And otherwise, it's just a matter of, if the cooldown is nice and short, no reason to not use it. If the cooldown is a bit longer, then you're a little more cautious about using them. But if it's a 90-second or below cooldown, there's basically no reason to not use it unless you're literally about to go fight a boss and you want as many cooldowns as you can have. Otherwise, just feel free to use them whenever they're available. This shares a recast with Foresight in terms of how long it is, so usually when I'm activating Foresight, I'll activate Awareness, just because less damage is less damage is less damage. Bulwark has a longer cooldown, but I still generally pop it whenever I can because blocking damage is less damage and is more shield swipes, which is useful. Mercy Stroke is good for a nice final hit. Provoke is good if the enemy's aggro has been taken off of you, or you're in a fight where you have to take over being the tank for whatever reason. There are times where tanks will receive stacking debuffs that if they get too high, the boss will one-shot them, and then will go play merry havoc with the party. So you don't want that. And that's what your off-tank is for. You switch from being main tank to off-tank because they use Provoke and a hate-generating skill like Shield Lob to solidify themselves over top you and everyone else in the party. You get out of your tanking stance and just start doing your more DPS-y abilities in order to continue doing damage and being useful until you need to take back over, as that tends to happen. Paladins are in some situations highly sought after main tanks because they are actually one of the harder to kill tanks due to how much defensive ability they have. And having clemency makes it easy for them to survive because... Let's see how much this heals me for. Yeah, that's a healer's heal spell right there. Yes, it's really expensive, but it heals me for a good chunk of my health. So, there's little to no reason to not use this if I've taken damage, and because I just get my MP back fairly regularly as part of doing my rotations. A healer's MP is harder to sustain. It's easier for them to run out than it is for you, even though they have more of it. Because they don't have Riot Blade combo. They don't have Shelltron. Yes, they have their MP refreshing cooldowns, but they have long cooldowns. It'll be a while between them, so if the fight is especially long, their MP can run out really quickly if they're having to heal a lot. So anything you can do to make them to allow them to use less MP is good. You're the tank. You're the wall between your party and death. You should be doing everything you can to make it easier for your party to get rid of that death. That means making it easier for your healer to keep you alive by making them have to work less. That means holding the aggro consistently so that the DPS can focus on dealing your maximum damage. And that means you have to do everything you can to not die, so that the enemies don't just turn around and start eating everybody's face off. Because that's not fun. It's really not fun. But I think I've covered everything. Pretty sure. So, I hope I've been informational, educational, helpful, perhaps even entertaining, and I hope that my voice hasn't grated on you. Until next we meet... Goodbye.